It's Wednesday, and it's Dylan. So that means it's Wednesdays with Dylan. It's strange how that works. I know. Morning, sir.
What's up?
You tell me. It's been slow. It's been a slow news week here in Atlanta, and absolutely nothing happened after a loss to Charlotte at home. So let me ask you this to start things off: what, if any, what has been the national vibe from the Northeast or any other environs about what has happened in Atlanta, or is it just, yeah, that's Atlanta and that happened?
I don't think there's a lot of surprise, certainly.
Right. Yeah.
When when you struggle the way that you do with the roster that you have, there's bound and you're in a you're in a market and you're a team that strive to be one of the elites year in and year out. I can't say there's necessarily a surprise with what happened. The one takeaway, and it's funny because I'm hearing the same things about Pineda as I discovered with Chris Armas. Great guy to deal with, super nice guy. So I guess the moral of the story is, don't be a good guy.
Be an ish head is what you're saying?
Yeah, you might. I mean, go around the world, right? Like Jose Mourinho's made a career out of being that and winning. So feel bad for Pineda, certainly. And yeah, now you go back to caretaker, and it's the big question on who's the next guy, right? I think the words, everyone wants to pick and like analyze words,
pick and parse and analyze and go a sentence at a time.
Yeah. So I think the exact, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the phrase was MLS, not experience, right? But knowledge, right, of MLS is a requirement for this position.
So who in your mind?
Well, that's a problem. I don't know who has knowledge of MLS outside of those in MLS, right? So that's the, and I do think it's an interesting one because, you've gone the hot assistant route, right? Like the guy who was at the top of the list who deserved that shot, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess that didn't work out. I mean, it didn't work out, obviously. Right. You've gone the big name overseas route, and that's only worked really once, right?
Yeah, and if a player had stepped out defensively with the second big name internationally, then it would have been back-to-back MLS Cup Finals appearances. But I digress.
Yes. So, yeah. So now that begs the question, right? Like, who's the guy, right? Like, who's going to be? Is it is it someone who's already coached in MLS? I don't know.
So here's the wording from Garth Lagerwey, quote: "Someone that has at least some familiarity with MLS is important in a coach going forward. It's still a very special league in terms of the salary cap, and I don't mean just in dollars, but in terms of regulation. We don't need a coach that understands that perfectly, but we need to acknowledge that reality in terms of team building and what we are able to do short-term and long-term," end quote.
I wonder is I don't know, just off the top of my head, Dome Torrent, is that someone who, you maybe think about? Because he would check a few of those boxes, right?
But would Dome fit the style of play and the personnel that Atlanta currently has?
I mean, I don't think it was vastly different from when he was coaching NYCFC.
Okay. So you put Dome Tehran on the list. I know a lot of folks down in this particular part of the woods have mentioned Gio Savarese.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair and you know that he's available, obviously.
He's up there with you doing TV on the weekends.
He is. He's bringing wine to those guys. I'm a little bit jealous.
Seriously?
Gio knows his wine. So like when I heard when I was watching, I think it was one of those where they do the goal count, right? And so his was off.
Oh.
So then he brought the guys some wine, not just I think a couple of bottles of wine.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah.
I know that some folks are mentioning Ronnie Dyla, as long as he perhaps keeps his clothes on. But I think that Dyla
or not. I don't know. If he doesn't, that means that you've won something significant. So
it's true. But would Ronnie want to come back from Europe, where he seems to be happier than he was when he had his time on this side of the pond?
Yeah, I think it's of those two. I would say that Dome would be more interested in coming back to the States. I think Ronnie is more comfortable where he is.
He's more comfortable disrobing overseas than he is disrobing here on this side.
It's more. I mean, they're looser with their.
They're looser with their apparel and their mores when it comes to wearing clothing and celebrating. I see.
Yeah, exactly.
Folks in the Twitch pitch, our Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD says Dyla and Toronto too. He'd look at Savaresi's a bit too pragmatic in quotation marks for him, but he thinks he'd set a higher floor than what Pineda could.
What is I haven't looked in a little bit. What's Patrick Vieira doing these days?
Patrick Vieira. So let's try and see if we can find Patrick Vieira for the if I could spell Vieira with fat fingers on a keyboard. Let's see. So yes, you found Patrick Vieira. Good for you. Let's see. Strasbourg. Well, I mean, Strasbourg in Ligue 2, I believe, would be where he currently is. Let's see if July 2nd, 2023. So he's coming up on the first year completed in a 3-year deal at Strasbourg. And so, what Strasbourg? Wait a second. Why does Strasbourg trigger what's Strasbourg's roster? See, so now that we're going down a rabbit hole on a Wall Pass Wednesday, I know that surprises no one. But yeah, so Strasbourg, RC Strasbourg, you look at them, Strasbourg, Alsace. But so Ligue 1 right now, 13th out of 18, and is Strasbourg a distressed enough asset where Atlanta United has been fishing in. Yeah, and Strasbourg's Ligue 1, and so are you happy in Ligue 1? If you end up getting if you're happy being 13th in Ligue 1, and you're happy in Strasbourg in the Alsace Mountains, are you kind of happy there? You don't want to leave? I think that Patrick Vieira might be happier in Europe, much like Ronnie Dyla.
He's more, having dealt with Vieira for during his time here, he is more he enjoys traveling. I would say that. Okay. And the funny thing is, like, you look at his CV, as they say, and he's found himself some pretty nice homes, right? Like, I remember joking with him. It was a really cool kind of setting post season one of the years, and it was like a select few media. We went out. There was like a lunch somewhere in a French bistro in Manhattan, and I was sitting next to him, and I mentioned Newcastle, of course, right? I'm going to mention that, and he said, "Man, he's like, honestly, that's one of my favorite stadiums. Like, I loved playing there." And I feel like at the time they were either without a manager or close to without a manager. And I said, yeah, listen, you've been all around, what do you think about that? He goes, honestly, he's like, I love it there, but it's a little bit for my wife, like a little bit, it's like too much of a party city. She, it would be a situation, he said, like where if he, he probably couldn't take it because of his wife, but he said if he did, like she'd be in London and he'd have to take like the train, like to Newcastle.
He's commuting.
Yeah. She's more of the, we're living in Paris, we're living in New York City, we're living in London, we're living in Milan. So
yes. So,
but that said, Atlanta, having been there, is a beautiful city as well. So.
And then the international confluence that is Atlanta when it comes to everything. When you look at the Eastern Conference right now, we were talking about it with Tyler Pilgrim from Scarves and Spikes before you came on. Basically, it's 3 groups right now into this international window, where not everybody is taking a break. By the way, you're given the option of playing through an international break, and 8 teams are doing that. We got 4 matches on Saturday that we actually have to talk about on Friday.
It's like it's a painstakingly, like we actually have to talk about them.
Well, and it's like, okay, so we need rosters and scorecards and
figure out who's away and
it's like who's away and what are we doing and who am I talking about? What of my roster looking like? These kinds of things. I mean, it's
if you're a fantasy MLS player, I guess, or you're a juice box person, these are the weeks that we despise.
Yes. Well, and considering, as a matter of fact, since you mentioned that, I actually tried to fill out my fantasy team for this week to try to get it over with early, not knowing, who's out or who's not out and all these kinds of things. I literally have 14 million left under my salary cap. Literally, the value of my team is at 141, and I literally have 13.9 million left over because of who I had to choose in this particular matchup. So,
I really should be playing MLS fantasy, and I haven't. Like I don't know. Like I think it's, I don't know why. Maybe it's, I don't know. Like the start of the season, maybe I'm juggling so many different things.
You're kind of busy, man.
I know, but like I think I would, like, not to sound egotistical, but I think I maybe would do well. I don't know.
Well, you need to join our league. You just need to.
Oh yeah.
Because we do have a league.
Is it League 1?
Yeah, it is League 1. It is League 1, brother. It is the League 1 when it comes to this stuff. So I mean, it's solid.
Do the last place teams get relegated, or is that?
Well, we do have an open league, and then we also have the Campeón de Campeones league, where you do have, I think, 2 or 3 teams get relegated each year.
Oh, I love it.
So there is a separate element of staying in and trying to stay in. Literally, I'm like Crystal Palace in that league. It's like I'm there, and I'm like 14th out of 18th. It's like 16, 17, and 18. They get relegated, and I'm like right there at the bottom every single year.
Yeah, I got to do this next year.
You do. Yeah, you do. So we talk about the 3 groups in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, right now it's Messi and Friends and Cincinnati. I still don't think Messi and Friends win it. But where we are right now, we've got those 2 in that first group. Then that second group that is 3 through 7. NYCFC. What the heck? So I'm going to hit the pause button right here. What has Nick Cushing found in this group?
Again, I said it last week and they won again. So I'll say it again. They've just found consistency in playing together. What is great to see is that, they also have the return now of Maxi Morales, right? And back from an ACL injury that he suffered back in September. Great to see him back on the field. Just balled out in the later stages of that Friday night romping of San Jose.
It was San Jose, man. Come on.
No, for sure. But it was good to see him back in the field and contributing, right? So that was the only point there. But yeah, I think they've granted, they've beaten San Jose and they've beaten New England.
Hey, they're on the schedule.
They are on the schedule, 100%. So, yeah, I think they're playing really well. I mean, look, I said this before when the LA teams are both playing well, and we haven't had a lot of those, right? And the same is true with the New York area teams. Like, I think when they're both playing really well, like this, it only feeds that rivalry, which makes it fun when those two teams play. So.
Then Red Bulls, is it as simplistic as saying that Emil Forsberg can really make that much of a difference for Red Bulls?
He can, and again, I still do think that they could, in the summer transfer window, if maybe they could find that a DP forward, right? Now you've got Forsberg, DP forward to be named later, and Lewis Morgan up there, right? Like, with the defense that they have, they would, dare I say, for their long-suffering supporters, a cup contender then.
And they're one of the highest scoring offenses they're second in the Eastern Conference in goals scored. Do I have that right?
29 goals behind Miami's 42. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I did not anticipate that. And so then 2 in front of them in the Western Conference, 3 in front of them in the West. So they're like, top 7 or 8 in Major League Soccer in offense this year. Then you've got that tail end of that second group at Charlotte, Toronto, and Columbus. 2 of these things are not like the other, and did not anticipate Dean Smith in year 1 being pragmatic. And when you've got Christian Kalina,
going all Gary Smith, right? Your boy.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a Dean Smith. This Dean Smith is making 4 corners an offense resurrection in Charlotte. He's really playing to his ACC audience. Dean Smith is. And they ain't scoring a lot, but when you've got Christian Kalina, who's got 7 clean sheets, you don't need to. And Kalina has probably been some fantasy wonder this season for anybody that's picked him up. John Herdman, I had not anticipated this. The rah-rah sis boom ba, John Herdman, got to work on a better haircut, kind of a thing, where it's like you fell asleep in the chair on one side and they just decided to continue giving him the haircut. Did not anticipate Toronto being in 6th right now at the halfway point of the season.
No, I agree with you there. But now you've got buy-in from the Italians, it would appear, right?
Because you got to have buy-in from the Italians.
Although that's a very good one for the Godfather.
Gotta remember that.
But you got to keep Bernadeschi on the field, right? So he's almost like Sonny, right? A little bit, like a little hot-headed, like like he needs to be more like Michael, along those lines, more pragmatic and level-headed, as level-headed as those in those movies can come. But,
yes, and waiting for
he'll fly off the reservation and start kicking someone in the in the
nethers
in the streets in with the fire hose there. So
he'll go out on Lakeshore and just on the Parkway and just to sit there. It's like I'm taking you from here to the Coliseum and back. Oh, what's the mug this morning and what's in it?
Oh, Blessed coffee.
Okay, Blessed, coffee. There we go. Columbus is doing what they're doing and did what they did while they were traipsing through the Triple C. All of the stuff that they did, literally, they are identical. 3-1-3 at home and away from the Death Star. And they are in 7th at 24 points. They've got 3 matches in hand with the folks, 2 or 3. And Messi and friends have already hit the halfway point of the season. But they've got matches in hand, and they can storm up the tower, too, now that CONCACAF is out of the way.
Yeah, and I would suspect that they would. This is the point where I think people not forget it, but I think this is the part of playing in CCC play that we're now the effects of it, like post-mortem, right? Like you're in the middle of it and you've got to play in multiple competitions, so maybe your league results aren't what you wanted to be, but then it's what happens after that where we've seen a lot of teams struggle, right? Like mentally, physically, dealing with injuries. So I think this break right now, they're part of that, right? International break, I think will help them. They could hopefully hit the reset button and rebound, because I think, they standings wise, they're not obviously at the top, right? As we mentioned, they're 7th, but they're right up there to me as the top 3 teams, however you want to put them in the East, right? Columbus, Miami, Cincinnati. So,
and then what? Then let me ask you this: if Kurt Onalfo was so focused on getting away from the baloney, the baloney still is there. It's still in his fridge, and the baloney went bad. And right now, I mean, seriously,
it takes a while too for baloney to go bad, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, and
there's so much in there.
And it has not. You open the fridge in Foxborough, and the bologna is pretty bad. And I would have thought that Caleb Porter, once again, having to deal with Triple C, they got matches in hand too at the bottom of the table. But they're 3-10-1. They've only scored 11 goals. This season. Why is Caleb Porter still employed?
I think that's an excellent question.
I mean, I could go Reverend Jim and go, I don't know, and we could do something like that, but I have no idea. Do they not want to pay him out this early and go and chase after somebody else? And in the interim, considering what happened to bring Caleb Porter into Foxborough in the first place, you might end up having Richie Williams as the interim for New England if Caleb Porter is let go.
And if that's the case, man, like never mind the Goonies, it's the interims who don't die, right? Like,
yeah,
you've got Klopas, who I think is in his 16th.
He's in his 16th tenure as an interim in Chicago alone.
Richie Williams,
but just
he was an interim at Red Bulls.
And the subtext of Richie Williams in general in Foxborough, having him cycle back to possibly be an interim after everything that went down last year that started the baloney being in the fridge in the first place. The irony is not lost on me there.
Here's who you need to bring in. Big Sam.
Oh.
Big Sam needs to come in.
You take him to Nashville?
He needs to go somewhere. Yeah, maybe.
If you're trying to think of anything for Sam, and it's all about points and survival, where he just kind of goes he's just kind of sitting there and he's scratching where his tie is, and he's got the big wad of big league chew going, and he's just doing this. Pineda. I mean, Emilio's asking about Pineda in New England. I would say Pineda in Seattle, to be perfectly honest. And Nico Moreno will be joining us tomorrow to discuss this. But I think that Gonzalo ends up going back into the Seattle dynamic. And I think that he might be the coach in waiting for whenever Brian Schmetzer, in 38 years, when Schmetzer decides he's going to hang it up.
Like the Sir Alex guy after Sir Alex.
Yeah, I think that Gonzalo might end up being the guy after Sir Alex in Seattle, but that's just me. Familiar with the situation, knows the dynamic, knows the landscape. I think that he ends up being, I don't think it would be a pay cut. I think it would be I think it would be just something where he knows the landscape and the lay of the land, and I think that he ends up being the guy that takes after Sir Alex up in Seattle when it's all done.
I think it's a good shout.
That's my gut anyway. Western Conference. I know we got a couple of minutes left here. Western Conference. You look at things and RSL. Chicho Arango. Hey, John Thorrington, Steve Cherundolo. Hello. Chicho, he's doing all right. Well, I've got one for you that might be close to the whole Bueller thing. Let me see if I can find it in short order and not blow the absolutely surprise of it here. Oh, where is it? Okay, here we go.
Penny.
Sheldon.
Penny.
Sheldon.
There.
There you go.
That's what you're staring at with that one. It's just RSL. You've got great scoring power up top. You've got some young talent that's there, and Zach McMath between the sticks, and RSL on top in the West.
Love it. I think and I credit the guys at on Apple there, like Sasha and those guys. I think they've won me over thinking Supporter Shield, because I initially was like, and you were as well, we were both thinking just the East, right? Because the better teams are in the East.
Yeah.
But then you look at, so if the better team's in the East, that means that you beat each other up in the East.
Right.
If you go out West, and if the better team's in the East, that means the worst teams are in the West. And you're playing against more of the worst teams. So the teams that are in the top of the West should then, right, theoretically
Yes.
be higher up in the table. So
That is true.
yeah, I mean, I think Salt Lake and LAFC are two contenders there for sure.
And Minnesota, I did not have Minnesota as a part of this discussion. I certainly did not, especially when your chief soccer officer was not on this continent until either training camp was ending or week one. And you bring in Eric Ramsey from Manchester United, who is 32, and he's younger than some of his players. And he believes in a team that is based in speed and transition and turnovers and those kinds of things. And so he's got a roster and turnover. He's got to deal with Bebe Reynoso, or Bebe Reynoso, however you want to say it. All of the Reynoso drama, older players that he's probably trying to transition out to bring in younger players starting next season. With all of this stuff going on, Eric Ramsey, I don't know if you can give him any kind of coach of the year consideration because of what he's done. But right now, Minnesota, and I did not have them here. I had them wooden spoon coming into the season. But you bring in a 32-year-old coach who, Diggs wearing the sweaters and the white T-shirts on the sidelines, and he's got them third. I did not have that. I did not.
He does, and who knew that? Who knew that with Reynoso out, Robin Lod would suddenly become one of the best 10s in the league?
Did not have that on the card.
It's crazy, right? That's not on the bingo card. And it's Tani time, which is a terrific catchphrase for social media, and maybe maybe something for the people at Minnesota. They've got that beer garden right on the end line, right? Or no, it's sideline, I think, right? They've got the beer garden there in Allianz Field.
Yeah.
Maybe a play on Miller time. They can go Tani time and have like his own sort of craft beer.
And spray the craft beer when he scores.
There you go.
It's just a lot easier than saying Oluwasei. If you just say Tani time,
it's Tani time.
Easier to spell. What's going on, my friend, with you?
By the way, a proud former Johnny like myself, St. John's University. He played on that rooftop field, is where he
played on the rooftop parking deck.
Honed his craft before heading out to Minnesota.
On the Belson parking deck on the campus of St. John's University. What is going on with you being the busiest man in the Northeast?
I'm not as busy now. It's quieter time, which is nice. So it's lacrosse season is winding down. The broadcast season, like I said, I've got that one game coming up in 2 weeks, and then it's, I think, August 31st is the next one. For early season football. So yeah, it's kind of MLS right now, which is nice.
Okay.
So I have some extra dad time. I can grill in the backyard. I can mow the grass, which I did yesterday, which was
that just had to be thrilling.
Fun.
That just had to be thrilling. Absolutely. My friend, it's always great to catch up with you when you are not the busiest man in the Northeast and find out what the perspective is from you at MLSsoccer.com at Dylan_Butler. Go enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy dad time. And now that you've mowed the lawn, you don't have to mow the lawn today, at least on back-to-back days, I don't think.
Yeah, not today. Well, sometimes I go like, listen, I don't have a palatial estate.
Yeah, you do.
I've got a little bit of property. So I've got like a little more than a quarter acre. So like I do the back one day and the front the next day, but I won't have to do the front tomorrow. I'm actually heading to a family wedding in Annapolis this weekend. So
so then you're going to go get your Annapolis Blues NPSL gear and go sit in on the game if they've got one this weekend over at the stadium.
Perhaps. I did think I was like, can I talk my wife into USA Colombia on the way back? But
Ooh.
I've opted not to press that button of chance.
Okay.
just drive on through.
The athletic emotional capital. I completely understand that. There's a time when you can use that button, and that may not be the one that you want to sit there and burn it.
You don't like to press that button a lot.
No, just you have the opportunity to use it. You can use it. You save it for later when it's a really obscure one that you really want to take care of. And then she'll say, yeah, go ahead.
I did a quick one for you. I did actually press said button. We were, God, it might have been 10, 15 years. I don't even know how many years ago it was. Marcus Hanneman was the goalie at Reading at the time.
Wow.
But we did a trip to England. Super fun. Like, I got to go to Newcastle. We went to a few different matches. We did matches from different levels, right? We went to Liverpool, did the whole Beatles thing. Obviously we were around London. We were in Manchester. We went everywhere. So the US were playing Scotland on the last Saturday. We were flying out Sunday, I think. So Saturday they were in Scotland. I'm like, we're not that far. She's like, no. Like, I'm spending our last night in England, in London. We're having dinner. Like, it's you and I. All right. You're right. So did not see USA Scotland on that day.
That's tremendous. Well, continue to drink out of the mug this morning. Continue to be blessed, sir, and we will catch up with you again next week as we roll through everything in MLS soccer, and we will have more matches to talk about than just the 4 this weekend. Be safe, my friend.
Yeah, cheers.
All right, there goes Dylan. Dylan's going to enjoy his coffee.